he would drive to see me, and then at one point try to break up with me because, you know, I think it was the distance.
Tried to break up with Summer.
And I'll never forget, like, he tried to break up with me and told me he was going to date my best friend. And my heart was like crushed.
Why would you say that? You just break up. You don't be like, got something else to tell you too.
I think he's trying to like make an excuse because then like I was crushed. But the next day, here he shows up at the house.
Jen, here, you have this flower.
No, thanks.
1, 2, 3, go.
Jennifer Hardy, har.
Believe it or not.
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Show.
The Lawyer Dana podcast.
Wow, we have a lot to talk about.
And we're going to do it right after this.
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana podcast.
Tell me how you met my mother. My
Your
partner.
what?
My. Tell you how I met your lawyer. Yes.
All right, so
With Daniel Patrick Harris.
Daniel Patrick Harris. All right, so I met Daniel in high school. I was a sophomore. He was a senior.
Did you say hi at school?
No.
Man, that's the worst. That was the worst pun that I've done yet.
So it's funny. I had a friend. So she tells me about Daniel, and she was my best friend, and she was like, "Yeah, there's this boy. I think you should meet. I think you guys would get it, hit it off or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And
Why? Because you were such a Star Wars fan?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, what's his name? Because I have to look him up in the yearbook first. I got to see what he looks like first before she tries to hook me up with somebody. So I look in the yearbook. I was like, oh, he's cute. And she's like, yeah, I think y'all would even, you guys would get along. And I was like, okay. So I had chemistry. I just got out of chemistry, and I always walked over to L Hall, which is used to be the main, the old part of Mesquite High School. Way back in the day, it was one of the original pieces of the school. So I walk over there to meet up with her, and then at that time, she introduces me to Daniel. So her and Daniel had the class where they would help kids with disabilities. And,
that was a class?
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
So they
cool.
kind of like a peer helper type thing.
Cool.
And I remember whoa, that's so awesome. He helps people with disabilities.
I do that now with Bill at Disney World.
Yeah, I mean, you do. You do.
I do, actually.
You're so kind to Bill. So anyway, I am.
Bill is I don't think of Bill as a disabled person.
No.
I think of Bill as, I have to pick him up sometimes, but he's just Bill.
Yeah. So my heart was kind of warm that he did stuff like that. And I was like, oh, what a nice person that he does that.
Did he trick you into marrying him? Summer and I, we both think we tricked each other into marrying each other. Because I thought
he did stalk me.
I thought that I tricked her, and then she says that you tricked me, but then she was like, she thought she had tricked me, and yeah,
You just thought you tricked each other. Anyway, so back to him.
It was a dirty trick.
Oh my gosh! I meet him in L Hall, and she says, "This is Daniel." Blah blah blah.
L for love.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
we're in the hall for love.
Oh my God. So
Jennifer's meeting Daniel.
Oh my gosh. So I say hi, we introduce ourselves, that's it. Next day, I go to L Hall again to go see her and to meet up with her. And I see Daniel, and I go, hey, and he literally puts his hoodie over his head and runs for me. And I'm like,
what?
Okay. So then I walk up.
It's going well so far, huh, Jen?
So I walk up to my friend, and I'm like, he doesn't like me. He's not interested in me. He just ran for me.
He probably liked you so much that he couldn't even talk to you.
She goes, he is very shy. He's very shy. That's just him.
Did she know whether he liked you or not? Or was it just him being shy?
I don't know. I didn't ask the question.
Daniel, she likes you.
She was like, no, he's just really shy. So I was like, okay. And so then, I don't know, a couple days go by or something, and he calls me. And he's like, hey, I wanted to see if you wanted to go to dinner and a movie. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like fun.
So he called you on the phone?
The phone.
The one connected to the wall at the house?
Yeah, exactly. So then...
that was a whole different thing than
so
like,
then
hey,
so I'm like,
text me.
I go, so what are you doing? He's like, because I hear like music in the background. And I hear the Lion King. And I'm like, I go, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm working out. I said, to the Lion King? And he goes, I gotta go. Click. I was like, what?
Little did he know, he kept her interested, like, oh, what's up with that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't make yourself too available. If she chases you a little bit, it's actually kind of useful.
Yeah.
He gave you the gift of missing him and of thinking about him. That curiosity. He let you keep top of mind awareness.
Well,
of him.
so I didn't know how much Daniel was like the big kid at heart until. So anyhow, we started dating a little bit, and like he comes over one night and he's in my living room and he has Friends on. And I'm like in the kitchen cooking for me and my mom. My mom's coming home from work and I'm making dinner. And I look in the living room because you could see it from our kitchen. And he is like crossed his legs like this. And he has a different fruit roll up on every finger. And he's watching Friends. And he's rocking back and forth, eating his fruit roll-ups and laughing his head off. And I'm like, what in the world is he doing?
Living his best life.
Oh, yeah. And he's 18, okay? And so then, like, I'll never forget, like, so I was...
What year was this?
This is 1996. So then...
I met him 4 years after that.
So then, like, so basically, like, my dad had died, and like me and my mom were having a really tough time financially, and we were having to move out of our house.
And then Daniel comes over and is eating your fruit roll-ups.
Well, no, he brought his own.
Oh.
They were his own fruit roll-ups.
That's the secret. Bring your own fruit roll-ups.
If you have 5 of them, one in each your own hand, you have to bring your own.
Yeah, right?
So anyway.
Did he bring 5 different fruit roll-ups?
Oh yeah, they were all.
Wait,
different.
did he pull the plastic off and stuck them on his fingers?
Okay, so first off, so Daniel is half Vietnamese, and so his mom is Vietnamese, and the way she treated Daniel was like her baby. So she was always getting Daniel everything he wanted. Like, I'll never forget,
Two of each toy.
Even when he went to college, I remember, like, when we would come home, she stocked his truck out with sodas. Like, she made sure he had an abundant supply.
Is that why he drinks soda so much?
Probably.
Wow.
But, yeah.
It goes back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so bad for you. But,
yeah, they are bad for you.
drink water.
I'm trying to get him to drink more water. But anyway, yeah, he just like, so he was always this little kid, and I'll never forget. So we're like, I'm having to pack stuff up in my room because I had to tell him, like, we had only been dating maybe a month or less than that, and I had to say, hey, by the way, I have to let you know something. Like, I am having to move, and I was moving to Denison, which was about an hour and a half away from Mesquite. And we were having to move in with my grandma.
Did you still go to Mesquite High School?
No. Well, I came back to Mesquite, but the last 6 weeks of my sophomore year of high school, I had to, basically I went to school with all these kids from pre-K, and then like my dad died.
So then you go to Denison High School a month into dating.
I had to go to Denison High School.
Wow.
Which in turn, like, he would drive to see me. And then at one point try to break up with me because, you know, I think it was the distance.
Tried to break up with Summer.
And I'll never forget, like, he tried to break up with me and told me he was going to date my best friend. And my heart was like crushed.
Why would you say that? You just break up. You don't be like,
I think,
got something else to tell you
I think
too.
he's trying to like make an excuse because then like I was crushed, but the next day here he shows up at the house.
Jen, here, you have this flower.
No thanks.
I feel better.
He shows up. He shows up at my grandma's house and he's like brings me flowers and
See,
like,
I knew flowers were going to be involved.
and then he says, oh, I'm so sorry. Like
Your friend wouldn't
he's
go
like,
out
I
with
didn't
me.
know.
Oh, that wasn't it?
She said no.
She said no.
He said no. He's like, I just freaked out because of the distance and everything, and and he was gonna.
That's
he like
plausible deniability.
he's
right?
like he got accepted to A&M. He was going to go off to college, so all this is probably running through his head. I'm in a
Didn't
whole.
you get
I
apply
went,
to
I
A&M?
went, but I
Where
was
you
2
gonna go to?
years younger than him,
Oh yeah.
so I had 2 more years of high school left. But anyhow, I ended up moving back to Mesquite, going back to Mesquite High School, and all that, and we stayed together. But yeah, it was challenging. But back to my story of moving. So this is just how big of a kid he is. My mom's walking down the hallway, and he's in my room, and he is literally wrestling with my stuffed animals.
What?
And all of a sudden, the stuffed animal goes flying out of the room.
Can we recreate that scene?
Things that
No, it's going. It goes in there.
He's like wrestling with my stuffed animals, and my mom looks and she's like, and she goes, "Where'd you find this boy?"
That same big kid type of thing, though.
Yeah.
He's so likable, and every judge
No.
just loves him.
I-
And he goes in and he's himself in court,
Yeah.
and he's really smart. I mean,
Yes,
he's brilliant,
Daniel is very smart.
brilliantly smart,
Yes,
and
he
he's
is.
such a good attorney.
He's very smart. That was the one thing that I was attracted to him immediately, was his intelligence. Like I've always admired his intelligence. I've always admired him as a person. I've always been very impressed by everything he does. He is extremely smart. The more I see out of him with helping people, he didn't become an attorney to become rich, and that's the one thing that I've always admired about him.
It is my goal to make him rich, so.
He became an attorney because he always said,
We're doing the Dave Ramsey way, get rich slow.
he looked at the situation I went through as a teenager, and it made a big impact on him. And he said that he always wanted to be somebody that could help other people. And, I see it in him on a daily basis. Yep. People call Daniel all the time. I mean, he has people from high school that reach out to him. I mean, people are always asking him for advice. And I laugh. I was like, you should charge them for your advice sometimes, because sometimes it's like people will keep him on the phone forever. And he's just like, okay, I got to go now. But he, at the end of the day, he actually made this comment to me. I wonder if doctors get this as much as attorneys do. And the answer is yes. And, but I see his heart. He really does want to help people when he can. And he really does care. And that level of compassion, a good doctor who has good bedside manner, those are very hard to come by, right? Mm-hmm. And those are the ones that really make a difference in people's lives. And his heart and his compassion for what people go through, it says so much about him as an individual. Mm-hmm. And that childhood, being a big kid, mm-hmm. That's what makes him connect with people on different levels. But it also makes him such a good father. Mm-hmm. It makes him he can have fun with the kids, and he likes to laugh and be silly and be stupid, and and those are great qualities, and they're really hard to come by.
The combination of me and Daniel together, I think, make us both better.
Yes. I agree with you on that.
And I'm consciously aware, and I see ways that I make him better, but I will just testify right now that he makes me better.
Yeah.
And we have.
Well, y'all both have different elements of your personality,
yeah.
and it balances each other out.
Yeah.
you're extremely intelligent too, and you bring a lot to the table as well. Between the two of you together, but between the two of you together creates a very solid dynamic.
Yeah.
And you need differences in a team. You can't have everybody exactly the same, or it doesn't work.
We are not as good on our own as we are with the team. The team that we've got built is it's a whole different level. And it's because we intentionally do it as a team. There's a lot of law firms and attorneys that are out there that's like this one, and it's all about them, and they're about their credibility and their name. Like, I wouldn't have my name on our law firm if it wasn't legally required. And it's not about me, it's not about any particular person at our firm. It's about what the firm does, and it's more about the clients. It's about why we do what we do. It's because we're focused on getting our clients through the process in the healthiest way possible, and we want our clients to live better lives, and it's about their story. It's about our client's story.
Right.
Your story if you're a client watching this.
Right.
It's about that, and it's about them. Like, neither Daniel nor I care about necessarily our professional accolades or reputation or any, like, we don't want to. I'd rather be anonymous, honestly, and have the clients just come to the business and we solve their problems. It's about that. There's so many attorneys that trade their time and effort for reputation. We have a reputation, but I'm not doing this so I can have a reputation. I don't like not approaching people as equals. In fact, here's another Neil Peart, and my favorite drummer. He was accused a lot of being antisocial. And he says, and he was quoted as that, if you meet me as an equal, I'm not antisocial. You find me very social. But when there was people like come up to him like he's a god and worshiping him because of whoever, and wouldn't treat him as a person, he didn't like that. He had to stay away from that because he wanted to live as a person. He didn't want to be a famous person. He just wanted to be Neil, like a regular person, like he was. And I'm the same way. I don't want fame. I don't, I just want to be person to person. I wouldn't want that to be like Michael Jackson, where they're all, obsessed, or even as Johnny Depp said, if you listen to that testimony in Depp versus Heard, is what happened when Pirates of the Caribbean came out and everything changed, and if he goes somewhere, they get mobbed and people will get crushed against the railings, and it's out of control and overwhelming and too much, and it's like he's this different thing than he is. He likes meeting people as equals. Right. Just like Neil Peart said, if we meet as equals, you find me very sociable and normal and regular. But it's that weird thing about reputation and ego and that, oh, you're so great. Like, I'm not here to be great. I'm not telling these things to brag or show off. I'm telling these things to help people learn. And if anything, it's to help stop the putting me up on a pedestal. It's that just
our goal
me be me.
Right, and our goal is to help people be able to utilize this podcast as a tool. Like if you're searching and you're like, I need to get a divorce, and you need answers, well, we hope this podcast gives you the answers you need. Or I need to save my marriage, we hope this podcast helps you with that.
That more,
exactly. Or, hey, I just want to hear something funny and stupid, then you can listen to our personal stories. But, we hope that this podcast is.
You mean funny and goofy? It's not stupid. It's probably stupid.
But, it's there to help people. So we do hope that you get.
Comes from good nature.
Right. We do hope that you get a lot from this, and that we answer the questions you might have.
It's not about increasing us as celebrities.
Right.
It's about giving.
Well, I don't look at myself as a celebrity at all. I'm just a normal person.
To me, you are a celebrity. Like, if anybody in my world, like, I think you're my celebrity.
Because I ran a restaurant. Because I ran a steakhouse.
I'm happy that I get to work with you. And actually, you've been a celebrity in my life, really, because you were always like I sort of did put you up on a pedestal because I knew how good you were, and I never thought I was going to be good enough to be able to work with you, or much less you come to work for a company that I own, and that for us and for me to see myself. One of the things about entrepreneurship is you realizing where you are and who you are in the level and the mindset of where you were and you doing things that kept you at that level versus if you're going to be at the mindset and be the person of the level that you want to be, you have to think like somebody who is at that level would think, and you have to make decisions as somebody that's at that level. And there is this transformation of you from where you were to where you want to be, and during that process and kind of knowing where you are and making the decisions that won't regress you back to the things that would have held you back as opposed to the places that you're going. And it's very scary. Brenda wanted us this week to talk about what I've really done this week and the fear barriers that I came across, and how like I was stressed about like with the cash flow, and we've made these massive expenditures to be able to get the podcast to go the way that we want. And because of me and my involvement in 2 companies, ideally like I would focus only on the podcast, have nothing else going on. I would edit myself. I would sit with you, and if you're still going to help and like edit it and do this, but there's so many things that I have to have the courage and trust the people that are helping with this, and then me to like go, are we going to run out of money, and can I afford to fund this, and can I afford to make sure that we make our payroll in this company, we have enough that I haven't overspent here, and should I cut this back in my life, but then if I cut that back in my life, is that going to mess up my mindset, and then I'm going to start cutting everything back, and then everything fails, or do I go, no, I'm not where I was, I'm here, and I need to act like that, and you overcome and you grow as the entrepreneur so that you don't set your whole company back. And it's scary for me to be sitting in the seat and looking into a camera and having a crew here that I have to pay, like all, you know.
But I think what your experience is normal.
It is normal.
It is completely normal.
It is normal.
I mean, it is something that, I will say this, like I told you the other day, I don't own Palmer Law Group, but I look at it like I do,
How do you feel about what it is that we're doing? This is something that would interest me a lot. If we put this on the podcast, I might be the only one interested to watch this, and I'm going to watch it here. So maybe we don't even need to put this on because I'm already watching it. But anyway, I'm here now.
How do I feel about what?
Yeah. So you said what you just said. Like you make decisions and operate and feel. You come at it from an ownership perspective,
Right.
which is awesome. That's perfect. And you take ownership in it, and you do it of like, well, I don't care. You're not the person. Well, I don't care because it's not my company. Whatever.
Right.
That's Dana's problem. Like, no, you are like in it as you realize it's your team too.
Right.
It's all of yours. Like the fact that I own it and the way that we operate, I value your input. Like I say, here's what we want to do, and then and this, and is that a good goal? Is it not? Like you tell me yes, you tell me no, you tell me we should work on this, and you empower me to be the visionary. But me being the visionary, I empower you. There's a lot of decisions that I let you make, and some I'm like, it could go either way. Even I might choose this one, or hey, if you're going to make this decision, we've done this before. Last time this one didn't work out, but here's why, because it could have. It happened to not. So here's what happened the last time, this. Do you think it's still a good decision? And sometimes you're like, yes. And sometimes you're like, oh, no. Thanks you for that additional information. But I empower you in the position and team member that you are to play the position that you're supposed to play. And I don't veto your play calling unless I know there's a good reason, and especially if I have enough time and you agree with me. Sometimes you do, most of the time you do, sometimes you don't, about this, that, or the other. And I would say most of those things are fairly minor that we.
don't agree, I would say it's because I'm seeing another side of the picture
Correct.
that you might not be seeing.
And
Maybe
usually when we
I'm
do
more
communicate
invested
with
in
both
the
of those.
project
Exactly.
than what you are invested in, so you're not
My
seeing
default
everything.
is for me to be out of it. and
Right.
For me to not interfere, because I can go in and micromanage and really mess up everything
right.
and make everybody mad,
Well, and that's a
make everybody
tip.
disappointed. Yeah.
That's a tip number one for entrepreneurs. Do not be a micromanager. Like, if you're a micromanager, it's going to ruin what you're doing.
There's a line between coach and micromanager.
Yes.
You should be much more of a coach.
Yes.
And I like if you're the CEO of a company, then you're the head cheerleader.
Yeah.
These two are
We're
like talking about your business.
He's pointing at me, and I'm like, no, that's you.
And I will tell you, like,
I know you are, and so am I.
one of my best mentors that grew me a ton in my early 20s, he was a micromanager. And I will tell you, like,
Makes it difficult.
until I quit working with him. Now, I grew a ton working under him. For the 3 years I worked with him, he taught me all kinds of things. And, like, it was valuable, very valuable lessons. But after he left and went to go work at another restaurant to take over, and then they put me as a intern GM at that time, that's when you really saw something in me. Like, I was like making decisions and doing things and running the restaurant, and like it showed the company what I was capable of. And not too
Showed
long
you
after,
what you were capable
yeah,
of, too.
exactly. And not too long after that is when I became a GM for the first time. I became a GM at 26 years old, and I was running a high-end
impressive.
restaurant, you know, and they trusted me, and they knew it. And my boss was out of Minnesota, so I didn't see her that often. I think I saw her maybe a couple times a year. I talked to her weekly, but you know, other than that, they trusted me with that operation. Here I am, some 26-year-old girl running this restaurant, but you know, I took a lot from my mentor. But at the end of the day, like, the micromanaging is something that you don't want to handcuff people.
Yep.
You need to allow people to make the decisions, make the calls, let
Grow
them
and
learn from their mistakes.
Yep.
Because-
Sometimes the learning experience for them when they make a mistake is more valuable than them not making the mistake.
But I will, like you were saying about taking ownership in a business. So, you know, I've never personally owned my own business, but every restaurant I ran, I treated that P&L as if it was my checkbook. You know, I've always said that what we spent, like, the numbers was probably one of my favorite things about running a restaurant as a general manager. I loved the numbers. I loved seeing where we were at, what could we achieve. I loved having the meetings with my management team and like walking them through everything to do with the financials. You know, this area over here, okay, food cost is elevated. How are we going to fix that? What are some things? Hey, chef, what are some things you're seeing in your kitchen? Here are some things I've seen, blah, 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 blah. You know, and then as a team coming together with a plan of action to fix those problems. So that, to me, that was a big thing. So anytime I've been a part of any business, I've thought of it like that. You know, if this was my business and I owned it, would I invest this money to do this? Would I do that? I'm a big believer that it takes money to make money. I'm a believer that you have to spend money to make money. You know, one thing with like the restaurant, if a guest was coming in, they were celebrating a birthday or anniversary, you know, at Bob's it was like complimentary champagne for anniversaries and a dessert. You know, whatever we could do to make that extra special. For a birthday, it was birthday desserts. I empowered the staff there to make decisions. I'm like, look, you know what? I'm not going to see every little detail of every single table in this restaurant. You're the server. You're waiting on the table, right? You're knowing everything that's going on. You know whether or not that guest is having a great experience or a crappy experience. I can go by and check on them, and they could put a smile on their face and say, everything's great.
I've done that a lot.
But then,
When I as a guest, like I'm complaining this summer, how's everything? Oh, it's great. Yeah, thanks.
yeah.
A lot of times you do it without even thinking about it.
Complains about, like, my wife will get mad sometimes because I don't complain about service unless it's really bad.
Yeah.
I've seen really bad service.
Yeah.
And I look at tables and I know how hard the job is. And
Yeah.
I can tell when someone's overworked or they're stressed or when they suck.
Right.
Or when and a lot of times I won't say anything unless the waiter is like not even trying.
If they're inept.
They're either inept. I probably, if they're completely inept, I would.
Yeah.
Or if they're nefarious, like
Yeah.
you know, like they're just giving you service and screw you anyway.
Yeah, they have a bad attitude.
Yeah. Then I would.
But you know, with the staff, I would empower them. I would let them know, like, hey, you know, you do need to tell me if it's like the dish is bad or whatever. I need to know that. But if it's something like we cooked a steak, and of course the manager always took it out, but you want to do something nice for your table, by all means, I'm empowering you to do that. Don't mess up my trust, though.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trusting you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just pulling stuff off to get comped, we're going to have issues.
Yep.
But I'd let them, like, hey, Jen, I went ahead and bought this table of dessert because, you know, the table next to him was being loud. Okay, great. You know, that's awesome.
That's a good idea.
And, you know, and then I would comp off at the end of the night. And that was a way of keeping up with my comps. But it also, like, made our guests recognize that the staff cared enough about their dining experience and what they were going through. So back to being like a GM and having that empowerment of that business. If I owned my own restaurant, I would do exactly what I did there.
Yep.
You know? If I owned it's just same thing with the firm. If I feel like we need to do something to help a client out, or we need to do something to make that client situation better, I'm going to do it. If I feel like, you know,
a lot of times you'll check on different things and make sure that things are going well and going right. And
Yes.
anytime we see, especially if it's a systematic
Mm-hmm.
type of thing of like, okay, we can improve the client's experience if we do this.
Right.
And then let's do that every time. That's something that I think we do pretty routinely.
Right. In a business, you're constantly going to have things that you're going to have to change, revise, update, whatever it is. You're going to have to fix policies. Some policies are going to work great and might be established for the entire length of the business. Some policies wear out. You got to change it, revise it, or it doesn't quite work the right way. Like something I heard a couple of times were, you know, most recently from clients was, hey, you know, I don't feel like I really know where I'm at with my case or whatever. And it wasn't because like it wasn't put into their mind map or whatever. It was just that they needed a little bit of extra communication. Mm-hmm. And those are things that, hey, staff, can we just make sure that we're providing additional communication?
In a law firm, it's really easy for you to focus on the work, and forget that, oh, there's a customer experience.
Right.
And a client experience and
right.
a guest experience, and that you've got to treat them like a guest.
Right.
Because you're like, all right, how do I solve this problem?
Well, you get
on the paper and
too
like,
much into
we
the
gotta do this.
forest, and you
Yeah,
got to
you
get
get
out.
too much in the forest, and you lose perspective on
Right.
like, oh yeah, it's kind of like you're working in the kitchen too much, and you forget the guest is out here waiting on
Right.
you to do this, and you're so into it, and if you go a couple of 3 days, and you're in this like doing this, and then you're like, oh wait, I forgot, I haven't walked into the dining room and check on the guests.
So back to ownership of a business, like I think anybody that is managing a business should always have that kind of ownership in a business, and they should always think of it like that. And so going back to your point of, you know, what is my thoughts on what we do and how we do it, like doing the podcast and things like that. No, I think they're extremely beneficial, and I think that, you know, you have passion and things that you've always wanted to do. You're having the opportunity to do them now. You want to share the best practices that you have to others. You want to help others. This is the way to help others. It's no matter what, it's going to reward you're going to be rewarded in the end. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, everything costs money, and in the beginning you have to put money out there, but
It's hard
it doesn't
to have the courage to keep doing it.
right.
And once
It
you've
does.
started and have the momentum to like No, it's happening when there are plenty of temptations and reasons to let it not,
Right.
to lose the momentum.
Right. Well, I think, how I look at it even with the podcast and whether this gets put out there or not, but the podcast is something that it has to get put out immediately. It's got to, it's got to be revved up. It's got to, we've got to promote it and get it going.
Okay.
It's going to be fine. Have trust, have faith.
So the insecurity of an entrepreneur, get past it. Keep going.
Yes. Yes, because if you give up, you might give up on something great.
Yes.
And don't do that.
I'll tell the story. So there's a story. There's of them. Did I tell you? Did I just tell you, Brenda? I think I just told Brenda, so I'll tell you the first time. Have I told you about the miners? This is an actual true story, the gold mine.
No.
So a guy buys a bunch of land and starts digging for gold. And I don't remember if he bought it a gold mine or if he created a gold mine or whatever. And he's digging, and he gets frustrated and decides to give up. And he sells the mine. The guy he sells the mine to brought in a geologist, and they're like, yeah, he was just off by this much. They dig one more foot and hit this massive vein of gold and made a huge, tremendous fortune. One more foot.
So
he came within 1 foot, and that's the point. You're always you get there. You got to make it happen.
Have you heard the story of Dr. Krupp with Krupp Winery?
Krupp Brothers, the winery.
Yes.
With the doctor, the advocate,
But have you heard the story of what he did?
The water witch.
Yes.
I have not heard his story, but his wines are delish.
Okay, so they are, and when I worked at Bob's, we did a wine dinner, and Dr. Krupp came for the wine dinner.
Oh wow! And thanks for the invite.
You
That's why we went to Nick and Sam's for our last anniversary instead of Bob's. It's really not.
I'm trying to think. I think this is before.
How do you have Dr.
I think this is before I really knew you and Summer very well, and that y'all liked wine as much. But anyway, it's when I was first started at Bob's.
Fine, whatever. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so actually, I don't. Yeah, it was prior to Daniel working with you.
Okay.
So Dr. Krupp came. Story's incredible. Okay, he buys this land, for a winery, and he comes to find out there's no water on the land.
I've heard this story.
Okay.
But keep going. This is a good story.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah.
So there's no water on it, and he
has this one wine,
geologists
called Water Witch, where he's got with the fork.
There's more to
and
it.
he's tuning that. It's on one of his wines.
I'm trying to tell it. So he brings out geologists and stuff like that, and they're all just like, no, there's no water, no water, no water. He hires a water witch. Water witch tells him, go down this far, turn here, boom, you're going to have water.
Which blows my mind that's actually a thing.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
And that's why the wine was named after the water. They named a wine a water witch, but that's because they found the water. And so
it's amazing how
so
these
he
wines
could
are
have
delicious.
Exactly, but he could have given up.
Oh yeah.
He could have been like, I just bought this land.
How do you not?
Holy crud! I just screwed up.
You know how close?
But he didn't.
You know how close both Tesla and SpaceX were to neither one working, and Elon Musk just persevered with it.
Yes.
I mean.
Well, you got to think about that with all major.
I think
entrepreneurs.
Virtually all entrepreneurs, yeah.
I feel like I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
You are an entrepreneur.
But I'm a scared entrepreneur at heart.
Okay, why are you a scared entrepreneur?
Because I grew up in a family, we didn't have a whole lot of money. And, my dad worked really hard, and when he died, we were left in a really bad situation. And I always, my entire life has been built about creating the security for myself, always working for somebody, because that's security for me. That's a blanket.
Well, if your dad passed away when you were 14, the insecurity that you have from that could definitely stifle an entrepreneurship.
Yes. And it was
fear to take a risk, because you didn't even take a risk, and you experienced the penalty
and my dad
of failure
owned his own
having a
business.
risk. So I could see that.
And-
but I think you, even now, I think you are an entrepreneur. You just find people to team with.
Yes.
Because in my mind, I think of you as a partner.
Yeah.
We're
We're
legally
not
you're
partners.
not, because you're not a
Yeah.
licensed attorney or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, and Daniel, the way he's compensated, it's the effect of having a partnership interest without having an on-paper type of partnership interest. But it's like, it's real, like Daniel and I work together how we work together, and it just works. It doesn't matter what we have on paper.
Right.
We have our dynamic that we've built over the years, and to me, you are my right hand in you're the co-host of the podcast. I mean,
You see me as
you
an
are
entrepreneur.
we are mentally partners, and we have a deal, and you get a
Yeah.
paycheck, and I get a paycheck. Like we
Yeah.
make money from things, and like, so what's the difference? Oh, like, do you need that as a sense of security, or no? We have the reality
Right.
of trust. You have enough self-esteem, like, and we've built
Well,
it.
and
in the
I
pyramid.
think even working for us, like working for Palmer Law Group and working for you, like we aren't some ginormous company. I've worked for big companies. I've worked for big corporate for a very, very long time. This is not big corporate at all. This is more of a small business. And so for me, I'm like, oh, it is kind of like, I feel more entrepreneurship
Yep.
coming in because,
Absolutely.
it is a smaller business. It has to be managed differently. It's like running high-end restaurants or running restaurants that do a lot of money because they're really successful. Those are the easiest restaurants to manage. I ran a restaurant when we were only doing about $2 million in sales, and that was the hardest restaurant to manage. Because managing a slower restaurant
Oh, yeah.
is a whole different dynamic. Labor is a whole other dynamic. It having to control things, it is very stressful. You're very tight, and you have to figure it out, and you have to cut people when you need to cut them, or you got to make sure you're making the right decision, because what if you did get popped? And it's like you're really hands-on.
When you cut people, do you hold the knife this way?
Yeah, no, not that kind of cutting. But yeah, I mean, it's different. So yeah, I see that kind of coming out of me more and feeling more comfortable in it.
Now you know the right cuts to make.
Yes.
And as one of the right cuts to make, we're going to see you in the next episode, because we're going to cut right here and pick it up. So like us, subscribe. Thanks
Yes,
for watching the Lawyer
yes.
Dan Show.
And
the
don't be
lovely
too
co-host
critical of me.
of Jennifer Hardy Har Har.
Yes.
And we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
The Lawyer Dana Podcast.